Embers of Hope by Nyan Sangetsu, Chapter 13, Taking the Plunge. Interlude. Those children are the only reason for me to tolerate human life. Without them, there are no innocence. There is no life. Without them, there is nothing. The storm comes, taking the plunge. Interlude. Sienna was afraid, downright terrified, really, like a skittish cat. After a month, it was painfully easy for anyone to see something was bothering her. It didn't take much to guess at what that might be. Sienna was many things, but subtle. Never. Naruto saw it in the twitch of her eyes, the way she jumped at shadows and muttered to herself when she thought no one was listening. Meeting Salem had only made it worse. At her core, Sienna Khan remained the same person as she'd always been. Her worldview had simply been shattered. To fight for the rights of honest everywhere was one thing. To realize one woman had her family effectively commanded the very Grim themselves. Grim that could render her and her forces too much blood they mulch. Well, he could forgive her for being a little shaken. It was a lot to take in at once. As such, he wasn't at all surprised when the Khan asked, "Please, really, with an aid to find him." One does not simply summon a prince of the Grim out of the blue, but he granted her request all the same. It wasn't hard to find her among the workers in the courtyard. Her dark skin and striking stripes gave her away at a distance against the pale granite. Still, he didn't exactly hasten to her side. There wasn't any need, if only because Sienna wasn't the sort to run away from a fight. If she had a problem with him, she would stand her ground and call him out on it. He knew her well enough by now to guess at her motives. As ever, the tower was heaving with life, but today the sounds of construction lent the air a pleasant cadence. Finally, the tower within almost nostalgic scent, he let his eyes roam across the scaffolding and up onto the rafters. Considering those bustling above, work on the second wing was nearly complete, with the third well underway. He needed every bit of space for what was to come. After all, the more allies, the merrier. No, but to business then. Sienna had seen him at last. She was making the beeline right for him. "You asked to see me?" "You, the leader of the White Fang." She certainly didn't ask any time, and she didn't waste any time, for she rounded on him and stabbed a clawed finger at his nose. "You're turning people into Grim. I want no part of this." No one spared her so much as a passing glance. A few people laughed, bemused by the misunderstanding. None took her up on her claims. Many newcomers made such claims. It was only natural. They were going about upsetting the natural order. They were going about upsetting the natural order of the world. It only made sense that there would be some growing pains. Still more would have been irked by such an accusation. Untrue or not, Naruto barely batting an eyelash. Salem had taught him many things. Patience was part of this. "We're doing no such thing." He refused to rise to the bait and offered her his hand instead. "Come with me and I'll show you." She regarded his open palm like a king taijutsu. "I'd rather remain as I am. Thank you very much." "Relax." He raised it to show himself harmless. "This isn't something we force on anyone." Her ears twitched just a little. "If you try anything, I'll scratch your eyes out." "You're welcome to try, but really, I won't." He took the feral fawness by her shoulders and steered her away from the courtyard. "You have my word, and I never go back on my word." Golden eyes rolled in mild derision. "I've heard those words before." He pruned a little. "Not for me. Now hold on. Hold on to war." Her words peaked into a yelp as Naruto swept her up into his arms like a provenal like a proverbial princess and ran at a top speed. It was but the work of moments to bring Sienna to a destination he had in mind. Past the stone gardens they went, away from the crystal spirals, out towards the grim pools. They blurred past men and women clad in ebony armor, each standing guard over the teeming pits. None were occupied. Past packs of bear wolves he ran, through swarms of nevermore, around a placid coven of apathy. Finally they arrived. Here we are. He couldn't help but beam a bit as he skidded to a halt and set Sienna down. See for yourself. He pointed to a nearby pool, and she looked up to see the three men ringing it. Her reaction was not quite what he'd expected. Land rather than expected. Rather than expecting them as any sane individual might, the revolutionary all but flung herself from his arms and prostrated herself against the barren soil. I'll never leave you again. Sorry. Naruto scratched the back of his head as a thorn of guilt tugged at him. First time is always a bit of a shock to your system. Sienna ignored him. Never again. All as she recovered, Naruto's mind ticked off their names. Dove Bronzewind, a recent recruit from an otherwise listless life, no family to speak of, nothing exceptional at all. Even his swordsmanship was paltry at best, but he'd made it here to the Grimlands by his own merits when so many others had failed. Did not hint at his true potential. Naruto liked to think so. There was also Thrustle Rush, skilled with a set of daggers, blunt at times but with a good heart. Last was Skylark, incredibly adept with a pole arm, yet possessed of a mean streak. Not the best candidates of these three, but they had asked for this. Salem never turned away anyone who asked, for better or worse. They'd only been here for a week. Yatsuhashi may have recommended them, but others had counseled against attempting the trial so soon. In the end, these young men had been damned arrogant. Even that boded poorly. Still, if they wanted to join the family, who was he to object? Gentlemen, he inclined his head at each of them in turn. Thank you for waiting. It's nice to finally meet you. He could feel Sienna's gaze bearing into his back as he regarded the aspiring warriors before him. Each greeted him tersely, some more gruffly than others, but remained civil despite his reservations. He couldn't even fail them for being polite. They probably thought they had to be. I hope you prepared yourselves. Clasping both hands behind his back, he straightened his spine and scowled down at them. If you have any doubts, now is the time to step away. You don't have to do this. We won't turn you away from other tasks, and you can still live here without. What if we want to do this? This from Dove. Yeah, Thresher chimed in, elbowing him aside. Yatsu said this was the fastest way to rise through the ranks. Oh dear, he had a bad feeling about this. It is, but you have to understand, there are risks here. What's a little risk? Sky found his voice at last. We're ready. Let's get this done. Naruto pinched the brow of his nose. Right. He pinched the brow of his nose and hung his head. I'll say it then. If you fail, his head rose, you will all die screaming. I won't be able to help you. The voice stiffened, and for a moment he wondered if they would see sense. Magic didn't take kindly to pride, least of all black magic. It was not to be. Russell broke ranks first and jumped forwards into the black water, not one to be outdone. Dove joined him. The sky lingered for a moment, then, with a snarl, hurled himself in after them. Dark water rippled with their passing each time and fell still. A minute passed. 3, 5. Now, 5 now, longer as they vanished beneath dark waters. 7, a lone bubble broke the surface. He thought he heard a muffled scream below. And 9. It was on the 9th minute that Naruto pulled forth a notepad from his belt. With the winds, he ticked their names off, one by one. Dove, Russell, Sky. Well, I tried to warn them. Sienna shrank back, her tan visage gone, momentarily ashen. Does that happen often? Sometimes, he admitted frankly as they regarded the frothing pit before them. Many come here just seeking power, but you need more the power to survive this trial. He kicked a stray petal into the void. You need strength, a will, a keen mind, and a bit of luck. If you don't have at least two of the three, it isn't for the faint of heart. If you don't have a strong will and a good heart, you won't survive. But if you do, his sixth sense stirred as another pool began to bubble to the northeast. Aha! He pulled the paddle away, and stalked towards it. But for every disaster, there's a miracle. A tall, veined limb belonged to someone, burst forth from a nearby pool. Slim fingers grasped up at the sky, prying for a handhold that couldn't be found. Naruto stepped forward and leaned down to grab at the wrist, bracing his boots into the ashen coil. He clasped her hand into his own and yanked them free. Naked as the day she was born, her clothes burned away by the miasma of the pool. The girl certainly held an impressive figure. Her skin stood white as snow, limned in pulsing red veins that seemed to pulse with her every heartbeat. Yet, despite her change, her ashen hair retained its luster, and she had somehow returned her sunglasses. He would have found it funny if she weren't glowering bloody red daggers at him over their rims. Sunglasses, honestly, only one aspirant was crazy enough to wear sunglasses out here. How she'd kept a hold of them was a mystery. The newcomer reared back, sneezed, and swore a blue steak. Bloody cold. Well, that confirmed his suspicions. Congratulations, Coco. He pulled the mantle from his shoulders and rattled them and wrapped them in it. Welcome to the family. Family better have a decent fashion sense than this. She sniffled a little. Yachts didn't tell me it would feel like this. Why am I so damn hungry? You're part grim now. He clasped her shoulders, careful to meet her eyes and nothing else. It comes with the territory. Your body needs more energy to keep up with all that power. You might be a bit out of sorts for a day or two, but you'll get used to it. In time, you'll be able to change at will. Now then, settling two fingers at his lips, he whistled sharply. A mighty shadow swallowed up the moon and swooped down on the dark feathers. Sienna gibbered a little. Coco's jaw clicked open, then gabbed wider still as a mighty nevermore descended from on high. Mighty wings gave a harsh flap, nearly bowling the three of them clear off their feet before it settled. Easily the largest of its kind, it could have swallowed them in a single bite, but it didn't. With but a glance, it lowered his head and stepped low, talons scraping the stones. This one will take you back to the tower. Naruto ran a hand down the beast's beak, causing it to warble softly. Mom should have a full-course meal waiting for you. Climb on. Wrapping the mantle above herself, Coco made to do just that. Then, remarkably, she paused and dithered in place. A bloody iris peeked out of her shoulder. Naruto felt himself frown. She wouldn't. Surely not. Quick as a flash, Coco darted back. Warm lips touched his cheek. Good luck. She leaned into it nimbly at his ears, sending a fierce flush shooting through his face. Then she was atop their mighty steed and gone in an explosion of feathers. Naruto sighed. Not again. Behind him, Sienna coughed. Well, that was certainly something. Do you see now? He spread an arm towards the pools. They don't change who you are. Blue eyes shimmered with red as he watched Coco sashay away. Contrary to people's belief, we're not changing anyone. The pool makes you better than you were before, releases you from your restraints and burns away your inhibitions, leaving your true self behind. Sienna squirmed, and he realized that he wouldn't convince her so easily. Tell you what, he relented. I'm leaving the Grimland soon for a vacation of sorts, but I still have some time. Let one of your people try the pools. Her brow forward. Trifa then. He quirked one of his own. Not Yuma. I'm surprised. Perhaps that was petty of her, but no doubt it served as a reminder. For all the airs and grace he put on around others, Naruto was still human. Good to know. She was getting stronger. Ruby could feel it in her very soul, in her heart of hearts. She knew things would change soon. Crescent Rose, only forged a month ago, was a world of red and black steel in her grasp. As she cut through her targets, practice dummies fell down like so much wheat. Life was changing for everyone. Soon they would be ready. Everyone very soon indeed. So, how are the parents? Blake flopped into bed. Don't ask me, ask Ilya. Yang worked up a blonde brow at the resident chameleon. Wasn't it hard to see why? Because Ilya was grinning from ear to ear. I think I'm in love. He's taking me to dinner tomorrow. Is he now? I'm sorry, he has prior obligation. Cinder quirked brow. You do realize this means war? Winter stepped forward and pressed her forehead to hers. May the best woman win. Wise took one look at them and wisely walked in the other direction. The early bird gets the worm after all. Destiny lay before Nora Valkyrie, silent and teeming with darkness. It nevertheless awaited her decision with all the patience of the void. The pull of darkness didn't try to drag her in, didn't manifest tentacles or even spawn a grim. It simply waited as any other inanimate object would. It wasn't alive. It couldn't touch her, couldn't hurt her unless she stepped into it. Nora gulped. An icy gale assailed her as she stood atop the cliff, the same one Salem had used so long ago, and yet here she was, unable to choose. Some said those inky waters were cold, others claimed they were warm as any sauna. When asked above his own experience, Naruto had made reference to a strange light and a deep voice whispering to him. Ruby said it felt like being caught in a rose bush with dozens of tiny thorns pricking away at your skin. Winter claimed it was freezing, intriguing enough to leave her arm numb. Cinder insisted that it was like little more than a hot bath. Willow argued that the potion she'd been forced to indulge had been choking and cloying, but at the end felt like bliss itself. None of Tyrion's gibbering made sense, and he didn't want to listen to his talk about the divine essence of Salem. He urged that the pulls came from her own blood. When they did not, in that regard, he proved himself ever the madman, and thus the odd one out. She wouldn't be heeding his advice. There were others who refused to speak of the ordeal entirely, but she could draw her conclusions from that too. With so many different opinions, it might seem hard to draw a conclusion. Not so. The answer was simple, really. Each experience was different. Each had not changed, but altered, closer to their true self. Yes, and there was the urge to destroy, the best instinct to rip and tear, but each had proved themselves better than their base desires. They were still themselves, still people, not mindless avatars of destructions, as some might fear. She tried to make Rainy understand that, but he had been so stubborn. Well, now she was done waiting, wasn't she? Nora grit her teeth and reached across her body with her right arm to grip her left. Beneath that frightful grip, her wrist creaked ominously. This is my life. She hissed the words to herself. Make up your mind. She knew Naruto and the others wouldn't judge her if she backed out now, but others would. Once she made this decision, there could be no taking it back. Right? Salem had once spoken of a land in the far north bearing a singular pool of light rather than darkness, creation instead of destruction, but she would not divulge its location. It might not even exist. Perhaps that was for the best. In truth, Nora wasn't sure she wanted to hurt. She wanted her to do that. She thrived on chaos and mischief, not meditation, not silly books or strategy. She rather smashed things with her hammer, not strong but be strong and hit stuff. That was her thing. Who needed inner peace? Not her. Another bitter breeze swept up the bluff. Nora gripped her shoulders and shivered a little. I'm scared. A hand settled on her shoulder. The fear itself isn't worthy of concern, Miss Valkyrie, a mild voice declared. It is who you become while in its clutches that you must beware of. and she whirled with the start. Headmaster! Osmond awaited her startled gaze, serene as ever in his humble attire. Honestly, he didn't seem to age. Wasn't fair. Sneaky bastard. Creeping up on her like that. Yet for all his silence, she couldn't sense anything ill about him. Even as he took his arm away, he made no move toward her. He simply stood there, a voice against the dark, silent and intent. You will not be shunned regardless of your choice here today, he said, both hands upon his cane, and forced it deeper into the bedrock. My son is many things, but he isn't cruel. But others weren't they? Maybe not Rennie, not her friends, but the fact remained. My son loves you, I think. The headmaster spoke into the silence that followed, inasmuch as he loves anything and everyone. If the choice bothers you this much, you should talk to him. Bitter laughter tumbled out of her. What is this? The hair rot or something? The silverback croaked. Is it not better to have love and lost than never love at all? Nora wrinkled her nose at him. See, you say that, but you never had any competition for Salem. I do. He laughed. You're stalling, Miss Valkyrie. Gah, she wilted. Love, huh? Screw it. Her eyes snapped open. Nora gazed down into the pool. Well, she gulped. Here goes nothing. She stepped out over the base and plunged in. Geronimo! Darkness enveloped Nora at once. Deep darkness and glowing. She had been right after all. Every experience in the darkness was different. So too was hers. It wasn't hot or cold or painful or any such thing. No, if anything, it was almost tingling. She gasped as her being burned like lightning. It felt quite nice, actually. Blue eyes burst red, and in the darkness she smiled. Previews. Vacation time. Hello, Naruto. We've been looking for you. The hell are you? Well, hi. I'm suppose you could call me a friend of your father. His guests spread their arms wide, lone eye crinkling. You should be glad I found you first. There are people hunting you. Blue eyes flashed. You didn't answer me. His visible eye creased. Just like Kushna, it seems. And I have no idea who that is. Whoever you are, shoo, I'm on vacation. A gasp filled the bedroom, peeking into the moan. Harder. That many people you have. How many people have you killed? I can either go with enough, or you couldn't fathom the amount of dead men behind me. Go on, soldier boy. Take your pick. All Grim must die, and I'll be the one to kill them all. That's what heroes do. Dear boy, you're even more of a fool than I thought. I wonder, should I break you, or merely kill you? End of chapter 13.